I'd like to call the April 4th work session to order. Please stand for a salute to the flag and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call, please.
Mr. Baldino,
Here.
Dr. Baldino, sorry. Mr. Cannon,
Here.
Mrs. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Elling,
Present.
Mr. Johnston,
Here.
Mr. Knopf,
Here.
Ms. Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Scaff,
Here.
and Mrs. Smith. Here. 9 members present.
We had an executive session prior to tonight's meeting from 6 o'clock to 6:31, discussion legal issues and some personnel issues. Let's see, we're starting with Rob, School of the Month.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, members of the public. Thank you for being here this evening. My name is Tyler Barth, principal at Robb Elementary School. And I have 2 of our staff members here with us this evening. I have Miss Amanda Mosier, our STEM teacher. I also have Mr. Brad McCloskey, our facilitator at Robb Elementary School. This evening, we are going to go through a few slides to highlight a few things that we're so proud of at Robb Elementary School. But most importantly, a few things that are coming up in the near future and we want to make everybody aware of. So first and foremost, I'm extremely proud to be the principal at Robb Elementary School. Our staffalty, which is a term that we use to include staff and faculty, so it's all one word, staffalty, is such a resilient, great group of people that show up every day with the best interest for kids at heart. So I'm extremely honored to be here to represent our staffalty and our students and our families that come together to make Robb Elementary what it is. So go ahead, Colton. These are a few things we're going to cover this evening. You can go ahead to the next one there, Colton. So our theme, I know Mr. Varelli loves when I hashtag Robb on top, but our goal is to make Robb the top of what it can be and everything that we do. And this year our theme has been champions. And each month we celebrate a letter that is in champions. And this month we are on optimism. And last month was about integrity. So we tie those themes into our school-wide rules and expectations each month. And champions has been our theme throughout the year. The Carrie Underwood song Champion is something we hear quite often and is our theme song here. So go ahead, Colton, to the next one. Our vision and mission statement, aligning with the district vision and mission. And this is something we share with our students every single morning on the announcements, and it's something we believe in, absolutely, and everything we do. And the other part of what we've added to that is everyone wants to be seen, heard, and loved. So that's our approach with our students. That's our approach with our staffalty. That's our approach with our families as well. And the biggest part of our mission is developing lifelong learners who are adaptable, resilient, productive, and high moral character. And everything that we do is through that lens. So here's some things that are coming up just around the corner in the next slide, Colton. So Ms. Mosier is going to talk about the showcase event that's coming up in May. That is something that we invite everybody to come out to. It's on May 14th from 4:30 to 6:30. She's going to talk more about that. May 15th, we have a move-up day. Thank you to Mr. Romanishin, Ms. Fergazzi, and Mr. Carty for establishing that. Our 4th graders at Robb and all the elementary schools are going to have a move-up day to experience and shadow the middle school students for a half a day on May 15th. So we're very appreciative of that. Our students are excited and our families are excited for that. On May 21st, at Robb Elementary School, from 6 to 7:30 is our policy 917 and 918 committee meeting, where we talk about our comprehensive school plan. We also talk about parent and community engagement. And we have sent out a letter to the Economic Partnership to invite members of the community and businesses to come have a conversation with us and hear all of the incredible things that happen on a daily basis at Robb Elementary. And in return, we also want to hear what our community wants to see in our schools. So we look forward to that. If you're able to make it, we'd love to have you. 6 to 7:30 at Robb Elementary. And it's just going to be an extension of tonight, but we're going to get into a lot more things that we are very proud of. May 30th, something that our kids are looking forward to. Our PTO and staff will do a fantastic job on May 30th. So if you drive by Robb Elementary School on the 30th and you see a fire truck spraying copious amounts of water across the playground, don't be alarmed. It's just an effort to make sure every kid leaves soaking wet. But that's a great day coming up. And then May 1st starts Robb Gives Back. This is something that came up in our PTO. And we thought it was a great idea. So starting on May 1st, we're going to do Robb Gives Back. It's going to be a countdown challenge. So on May 1st, we have 25 days of school left. We're going to challenge our students to bring in a quarter, and then 24 cents, 23 cents, 22 cents. And at the end, we're going to reveal the amount of money we've collected. And we would like to donate that money to Sleep in Heavenly Peace. So it's just an opportunity to showcase to our students what giving back looks like and how we are a very important part of our community. Next slide, Colton, is going to be the Robb Showcase night. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mosier.
Hi, good evening. First of all, what is Showcase? We kind of hinted at that, but simply put, it's a chance for our students to get a night to show off, and not only what they do in school, but also incorporate some things that they have interest in, their hobbies, their talents, things that maybe we don't always get to see. We get to love up on them when they're there, but there's things they're involved in that we've never had a chance to experience. And that gives them a chance to not only maybe showcase those types of things, but also maybe bring in some passion projects. We send this home with our students to maybe give them some jumpstart ideas. We say at Robb, we want our students to feel seen, heard, and loved. And this is our night to guarantee that not only we see them, but now families, other community members can come in and support and show their love on them too. Last year, we partnered with the Clinton County Fair to kind of hype up their 50th anniversary. And I'd like to say it was a huge success across the district. I know we don't have an exact number, but the Keystone Central Foundation sponsored the entry fees for students. And I believe we had about 180 entries just from Keystone Central. So I'm kind of proud of that. I'm happy the students went a little beyond school. So now we're getting them in the showcase of not only in their school, but also community and county fair level. So thanks to the Keystone Central Foundation for that. Last year's showcase at Robb Elementary, we had a great time. We had race cars and tractors and fire trucks in our front street. We blocked off, and we had students get a chance to hold animals, pet animals, interact with agriculture, in a city life, country mouse, city mouse. We had a chance to kind of give them a fair experience at Robb. And of course, we had our giant ice cream sundae sponsored by the Clinton County Fair. So we'll see what this year brings, but in our planning with our district-wide committee, we want to come up with a way to kind of increase community involvement as well. So we're going to extend a little bit of the fair and make it a little bit more fair-like, where there's going to be some local community organizations and groups bringing in presentations or even just tables of information for our families and students to kind of give them that whole fair feel, so to say. Let's see here. So I think we have our date out there for Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, May 14th from 4:30 to 6:30. We'd love to see you all there. Across the district, if you cannot make the Robb Showcase, we also can promote Mill Hall as May 10th, Liberty Curtain on the 13th of May, Renova and Woodward on the 16th of May as well. So Showcase Night gives our students a stage, and sometimes we can actually say that literally this year. We have one student already asking, and it's confirmed that we're going to have a local music talent support him, and they're going to play some music for us. So we have Jason Dumb, if you've heard of that name across the county, more than the county, I think, playing with one of our third grade students on drums, and he's stoked. I mean, loving it. And he arranged it. I put it in his hands, and I said, if you can make it happen, we'll make it happen for you too. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, I hope you all can join us. But we have lots of local other groups and organizations kind of signed up to come, and I'm anxious to see what comes of this year.
Brad. Next, Mr. McCloskey. Colton, if you go to the next slide, Mr. McCloskey is going to touch base on our positive behavior intervention and supports program at a glance. And PBIS is much more than just an acronym. It's a way of life for us at Robb Elementary School. And can't thank our staff, faculty, and kids enough for buying in, committing to it. So Mr. McCloskey is going to highlight some of the really awesome things that I think is important for you to know.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brad McCloskey. I'm the facilitator at Robb Elementary. I like Mr. Barth. He says PBIS stands for Please Believe in Smiling, because really that's all it takes for these kids. Smile, love on these kids, and it makes a huge difference in their lives and in ours. We also believe that if we don't tell our school's story, somebody else will. And sometimes when we hear Robb Elementary, we think behavior, we think a few different things that, while yes, it might be happening. If you look at the numbers, I used to teach math, so I'm a numbers guy. In the month of March, by the way, we do a monthly meeting with students. Each month we gather them together, usually 2 grades at a time, trying to intermix them together. Not only intermixing the students with other grade levels, but also so students get to meet other grade level teachers as well. But we go over this, we print out information, bar graphs from our Swiss data from each month. And for example, last month in March, we had 136 ODRs, office discipline referrals, which our students know exactly what that means. We let them talk about how many do you think came in? How many students do you think had those? So 136 ODRs. Now I will say March was a little bit high of a number than we've had before. And I'll touch on that on the next slide, I think, for one of the reasons why, which is a good reason. But 66 students had ODRs. And the other point we make is out of those 66 students, 49 had 1 or 2. So office discipline referrals are like, they used to be white slips, we call them. So we explained to the students, that means 49 students made 1 or 2 mistakes in a month. And we do what's called reteaching, where we, just like math, if you fail math tests, behavior is no different. If you fail in behavior, we can't just expect them to behave because we said so. We have to teach them. So we reteach them. Oftentimes it is during recess to, part of the recess to help them. But we help them learn how to be safe, responsible, respectful, and be kind. So that many students, when you look at it, also 327 of our students had 0 ODRs. We looked up, I think there was only 651 schools that don't even have 327 students in the state of Pennsylvania. So that's a lot of students who are constantly every day following our 4 Bs. And that's something that we need to talk more about, I think, as public school in general. Talk about those students, make sure they are getting seen, heard, and loved for the positive reasons. Our next one, we did something for attendance in March. We held what was called March Attendance Madness, along with the basketball theme for March. We had January and February. If you look, the purple bar graphs, again, I'm a math guy, I like it. The purple was January, our attendance each day during the month of January. February, very sick months, I think, across the district, across the community. There's a lot of sickness going around. So we started to notice students are starting to feel better. So we put a little incentive out. We made a big bracket in our cafeteria, and we matched up classroom versus classroom based on, they got seated based on their February attendance. And there was some, good mannered trash talk between teachers and everyone, but we had some fun with it. And you can see the green bar graphs for March. It definitely helped to get everyone back into school. Shout out to Mrs. Snyder and Mr. Bartos Kindergarten. They are currently in the championship for this week, last 2 classes remaining. So we want to give them a shout out, make them feel seen, heard, and loved. But definitely increase the attendance. March's attendance average was 94.22%. And again, ODRs were a little higher in March, but that's because mostly everyone was there. So we're going to have that when we have more students there. But overall, like we said, we want to tell our story because Robb's an awesome place to be. Wouldn't have it any other way, making sure that everybody feels seen, heard, and loved.
Thank you. The next thing here is our family community connection. We take that very seriously. Actually, I don't know how if everybody realizes this, but Robb Elementary is the only school in the district that's in the city of Lock Haven, right? So, and we have a responsibility to connect and work with our community, something we take very seriously at Robb. So we've done a lot of community together, and these ladies across the bottom of the screen all donated and volunteered their time to provide a hair fair and wellness day at Robb Elementary. So any kiddo and their sibling could come to Robb Elementary. And those ladies did an awesome job of providing haircuts for our students. And they're excited to do it again. So things like that, we just can't thank the community enough. And we just really appreciate it. We've had a lot of success in collaboration with our Coffee and Conversation. It's every 3rd Wednesday At 12 o'clock, our doors open at the front. Obviously, you have to buzz in. But at 12 o'clock, we meet in Mr. McCloskey's office, and anybody who's has an idea, a concern, or anything like that, come in and have a conversation. Avenue 209 provides coffee. So there's coffee there, and we just open it up for conversation. We've had actually some really great ideas stem from that. The next one I'll show you is just a picture, our community event downtown Lock Haven. We do our holiday concert on Main Street, and it's been a huge success. We've been blessed with great weather the last 3 years, but the families show up and they patronize downtown Lock Haven. We give the kids a punch card to visit businesses, restaurants over the course of the weekend, and they bring their card back for a drawing. But it's just really a fantastic event to connect the school and the community. The next slide, I apologize. Echo Rooker was going to be our parent representative here tonight. She got caught up at work, but Echo's there in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And she was at a meeting with us and just shared a really seminal appreciation for Robb Elementary and Keystone Central School District. So I asked her to come tonight, and unfortunately she got tied up with work and couldn't make it, but just really proud of what we're doing at Robb, and I appreciate Echo willing to do that. Last couple slides here are just going to be a continuation of Family Matters. We did a positive parenting practices night. It was spearheaded by Mr. McCloskey and the interventionist team, but we had a really good turnout, and parents came out and we talked about positive parenting practices. We hope to continue to do those and maybe a little series throughout the year next year, but we appreciate our families so much and their willingness to come support those events. And the last thing I want to end with, this is something we did at the beginning of the year. So we talked about, the process of being at Robb Elementary and eventually you graduate, and where are they now? So over the summer, we put out a thing on social media. Let us know where your Robb kids are at. And I think it's really, really important for us to realize what we do on a foundational level. You never know what our impact will be. So these are some pictures of Robb alumni who have gone on to do some pretty great things. And on here, go to the next one for me, Colton. Highlighted a couple. One of them, John Paul Coughlin, attended Robb Elementary, is now CEO of Woodlands Bank. Krista Savani, not famous, but I work at the International Monetary Fund as a financial advisor. Michael Packer started out at Robb Elementary and went on to play in the NFL. The next slide. Zachary High attended Robb Elementary in 2017, and he's a Fulbright scholar and medical student at Penn State College of Medicine. Nathaniel Powers attended Robb. He's now a doctor of dental surgery. Haley Orndorff attended Robb as an instructional designer and universal design for learning consultant in Pittsburgh. And just a couple of other things. Jamie Mann McCann, she attended Robb in 4th through 6th grade. She's a teacher here in the district. Next slide. There's some pictures of them. Next slide. Again, just these were all testimonies that people put online. And I wish I could read them all to you because they're very important and very impressive. So last slide. Sorry, one more. So that wraps up our presentation. And I wish we had 7 more hours, but I know we have a lot of board meeting to go. So I just want you all to realize how much we appreciate what you do for our district and allowing us to do what we do every day at Robb Elementary. And we are going to continue to work hard to make Robb the best it can be and make sure that every student is seen, heard, and loved. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Pretty nice. I actually recognize a couple names up on there. Next up, we have a presentation from McClure on a solar project. They gave it to the facility committee the other day, and we thought they'd come tonight, present it to the entire board.
All right, does everyone have one of these? Great. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name's Alyssa Wingenfield. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing for McClure.
I'm Dip Smith, project developer, PV associate from the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners.
So we are so excited to be back with all of you again. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We're going to go over the handout in front of you. If you have questions throughout, feel free to flag us down, or we'll also leave time at the end. Okay. If you want to turn to page 2, just a quick history about McClure. We're a 71-year-old construction management firm. We specialize in energy projects for schools. Slide 3, we actually had the opportunity to partner with Keystone Central School District starting in 2020 to do 2 really great energy projects. We changed out lighting, did building envelope, did HVAC in multiple buildings. Highly successful projects going to save the district over $19 million for the next 20 years. So we're really proud of that, and we're very thankful to be a partner with you through that. Slide 4. So when schools become super energy efficient, they say, what do we do next? And our answer has been solar, and for 3 major reasons. One, the cost of electricity is continuing to skyrocket. The cost of solar panels have come down significantly, but the third and most important one is the amount of rebates and incentives that are available to schools to do solar. So currently, through the Biden Inflation Reduction Act, there's a 30% tax credit that can go to schools, whether they buy the solar up front, which we call direct pay, which you're still eligible for that tax credit, or you have the option to lease it through what's called a power purchase agreement. You still get that tax incentive and other incentives to do that. You'll also get rebates from your electricity companies, and then you can leverage those savings either to go back in your general fund, or you can use those savings to put towards other projects. We've done a project at Steelton High Spire School District right outside Harrisburg. They're definitely a district that's not very financially well off. They use solar to provide preventive maintenance for their buildings over the next 13 years, something they couldn't have done without this program. They also used it to change all their lighting to LED. It was a successful project. I highly encourage you to reach out to them. They're making way more money back than we even projected. So they're actually selling back to the utility and creating positive cash flow. So it's been a really successful project. So let's talk about a project what it could look like at Keystone Central. So if you look at slide 5, we looked at all your buildings outside Liberty Curtain. Liberty Curtain we put on hold because of the construction project and wanting to get that further through design so we could get an idea of how much energy it would use. They're also in a different utility. So this is something we're super interested in looking at for you. We know you're working with Crabtree Warboss. We'd be happy to work with them to see what solar would look like for that building, but that was the only building excluded from this study. Now, the district uses about 4.7 million kilowatt hours each year at the district buildings you see in front of you. The way solar works, if you're within 2 miles as the crow flies, you can do what's called virtual meter or net meter, meaning you can create solar energy at one site, but use it to offset energy at a site that's within 2 miles. So when we laid the solar out, we looked at 3 major sites, one at this campus that would offset all the electricity used at Central Mountain Middle, Mill Hall, and the high school. We looked at a field at Woodward Elementary, and we looked at a field at Bucktail Renovo. By summing all those fields, you'll be able to offset over 110% of what those buildings use each year. So fantastic. You have the ground area to put this. We gave you a couple ideas where these solar arrays could go. Through design, we can kind of shift and move these around, but gives you an idea about how large a solar array would look. So let's talk about financials. So what does this mean financially? So you have 2 options when it comes to solar fields. So slide 6, we're going to talk about the first option, which is a lease. When you do a lease, you can start with a minimum of 5 years or a maximum of 30 years. The way the lease works is $0 out of pocket. So you don't have to pay anything for this upfront. The goal of the lease is that the solar energy creates more energy at a cheaper cost than if you were to just do nothing. So let's talk about the cash flow in front of you. We'll work left to right. Column 1 represents years 1 through 30. Column 2 shows how much electricity all 3 of those solar arrays will create each year. You'll see that number does go down over the years, about 0.5% per year or 86% over 30 years. That's because these panels, they degrade over time, so about 0.5%. So we want to make sure we're modeling that correctly. Column 3 is existing electric costs. So this is what you would pay if you did nothing. So this is what you pay each day, annually to power your schools. We're using 11.5 cents, and we're escalating that 3%. If you look at commercial electricity rates over the last 40 years, they've gone up 3.3%, sometimes up, sometimes down. If you draw a straight line, it's 3.3%. So we feel 3% is pretty conservative. Column 4 is what you would pay McClure instead. So what McClure will do is we'll install the array, We'll maintain the array. We'll ensure it's working. We even guarantee column 2, your kilowatt hours. What we do is we look how much the field generates. We compare it to what we promise. If there's a shortfall, much like our energy projects, we owe you the difference. So that's guaranteed kilowatt hour production. This also includes maintenance because you're leasing it from us. It's our responsibility to keep it up and running. So the only thing that the district would be responsible for is mowing around the panels. So column 5 is you take what you would have paid the utility, subtract what you're paying for the solar array, you'll see an annual savings about 100,000 each year. And you see that beginning to grow in column 6 as you look at that cumulative savings. So after 30 years, the district will have the decision to have us take the array off the ground. No cost to you guys, that's already figured into these numbers. The other option is we can agree to abandon it in place where we walk away and it becomes a district asset. The maximum that you can do a PPA or a lease is 30 years because that's the warranty on the panels. Panels themselves have about a 40-year life. So you can have some time to make that decision after 30 years to decide if you want us to take it off or continue to use that asset. Any questions on this? Kind of hit that pretty quickly and hit the high spots.
I'm just kind of curious, Alyssa.
Sure.
You said about you guys are responsible for the maintenance.
Yes.
Okay, so we all know that it never hails here. Okay. We also know that whenever hail happens, it will damage these solar panels. Does that mean that you guys are going to take care of replacing the solar panels and it's still going to be no cost to the district?
That's correct. So what
Okay.
we'll have an insurance policy on the solar array under this arrangement.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah,
What
great
about-
question.
What about a hazmat leakage if they leak, if they get broke up by hail? Cause Texas had a huge nightmare down there.
Oh, yeah.
And, there
See, that's
was-
why I asked
There
about,
was millions of dollars in fees in hazmat cleanup. Do you guys cover that if that would happen?
Yes, we would cover that. We also decommission the system based on the EPA's regulations and rules. So we would be recycling it based on the EPA guidelines, and we would be responsible for any hazmat situations. Would be there to service and be there for the school district.
Listen, just
Great question.
so I understand this now, if we do a 30-year lease,
Mhm.
there's no cost to the district and we're gonna be saving about $109,000 the first year, 108,011. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. So the way this is set up is we own, operate, and maintain it for you. And that is the rate that you will pay over the term. So the only way that those savings would go down is if electricity rates go down over the next 30 years. So that would be the biggest risk, I would say. If you believe the electricity will drop, then these savings will be affected. If you think savings will continue to, or the electricity rates will continue to go up as they historically have, this is the projection of
We'll be
savings.
locked in at this rate for 30 years.
Yes.
Now, does the rate, the reason I'm asking is I have a full solar system that runs my home.
Oh, great.
And it's almost identical to this. But my rate per year is guaranteed to only go up 1% a year. And then I pay, like right now, I pay $68 a month for 12 months straight. It'll never go up. Next year, it's $70 and some odd cents. Is this set up that same way? So we know exactly what we're paying every month.
Yes, so column 3 is escalating every year by 3%. Column 4 is escalating every year at around 2%. But that's not a final number until we go deeper into the situation and kind of can give you a final fixed PPA number.
So you lock in the percent and that's
Yes.
as far as it'll go. Okay.
So you'll have
That's
a
the way
fixed
mine is.
kilowatt hour rate, which is not like your electricity supplier where it's only the commodity. Your fixed supplier rate with McClure will be generation and delivery. So not just supply like your electricity contract would be. It seems like you're currently in an electricity supplier contract with UGI until the end of 2025 December. So the rate that you see is there, and then we would assume that would continue increasing when you start shopping again at the end of 2025. And one thing to note on this cash flow that you don't see is the electricity that's produced over 100%, like the 10% difference here. You would be getting a check every May from the utility for
Right,
the
same
excess
as I do.
generation at that retail rate. which changes twice a year, June 1st and December 1st. So that's not modeled in here, but that's another revenue stream for the district.
Other questions on the lease?
Butch. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I know we addressed this at the committee meeting, but maybe for everybody else's benefit. I think the question was asked, what if McClure goes out of business somewhere down the line? What happens then?
It's a good question. So in the event of a default in McClure, the purchaser, which would be the district, would be able to give a written notice to us in the event of a default that they want to terminate the contract. So it would be just basically a written notice that you would want to terminate because we're in a default, and you guys would be able to get out of the contract. And your solicitor is welcome to review that and give any input on that.
What happens to the solar panels if that happens?
That's a good question. I would think that if we defaulted, it would basically be yours, but I would need to check with my legal team to be
Okay.
exactly sure.
Thank you.
Well, if you have an insurance policy, you said on them also, correct?
Correct.
The insurance policy would cover the default. You can look into that. Rod, do you get a question?
Yeah, actually for you. Taking a look at the photos here for Buckdale Renova Solar Field. Did you see?
Yeah,
you see that?
Not right field. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I also see the river right there. Is that a high enough level that we wouldn't have
Yeah.
to worry about flooding or anything like
Yeah,
that?
it should be.
Okay,
No
I'm just-
flooding there, yeah.
All right.
So I think it's just their draft, just until.
Well,
if they get the
yeah,
lease,
but
yeah.
you know, it's
Sure.
still if,
Yeah, I don't think they put it in floodplain.
oh, no.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Cause they got insurance.
So, all right.
Any other questions?
We're gonna have to clear a lot of trees to put these up.
That's
You see
correct.
that?
Yeah,
Who pays for that?
that will be, those costs are already kind of figured into the PPA cost. We recently did Mifflin County School District, and that was built on the side of a mountain, and we had to do a lot of tree removal in order to install those panels. That site is Mifflin County School District has the largest solar array currently built in the state.
If we decided to move ahead with this, what are we talking about time frame? Would you be doing all three sites at the same time? How long from start to finish would this whole process take before it was online?
So we can do these in parallel, all three sites, or as whatever best fits the district's goals and needs. In terms of timeline, we would say the front end is a lot of engineering and designing, which can take anywhere from 3 to 8 months. And construction can be, total project timeline could be like 12 to 18 months. The longest timeline that we're facing right now is with the utility and interconnecting the utility. There is a large influx of projects going into the utility, and they're having trouble basically keeping up. So we're seeing delays on reviews and just transformer switchgear that's required for upgrades. So that
A supply chain problem.
there's a few issues that we're still seeing.
That's,
Any other questions?
Actually. Good.
Oh, this is jumping too far ahead, but in case I forget, I had asked, because we have such a great CTC program here, that if that curriculum, if there might be something to develop, if the board goes this route, for the students and the CTC director.
Absolutely. So as a part of the project, we put TV screens in all the schools so they can see live production data. We can show your teachers websites to use that live production data and incorporate it into their classroom. Also, as we go through this process, we've offered this before to schools. We'd love to have any of your students that are interested in this industry shadow our engineers, shadow the construction, really bring them into what this is all about, have them attend meetings, have them come into the McClure office for a day. We really love students to be hands-on because we do believe that solar is going to be big in the industry in the future and would love to incorporate Keystone students.
Is Kurt Lynch here tonight?
Right back
Oh, there
there.
he is. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Good, thank you.
Just wanted to give you an example. We're starting a project at Southern Columbia School District, and we just did the geotechnical soil testing. So we had someone in the pit, and one of the teachers came out and and observed, and they also brought some students out to spectate. So those kind of experiences can be incorporated into the construction.
Thank you.
Alyssa,
Yeah.
question for you.
Sure.
I noticed you, like you said, you don't have Liberty Curtain here because we're undergoing construction and everything like that. Later on, is it possible to add in more?
Absolutely.
And how would that affect what we have right now? Because we'd be adding something in, will we have to redo all of this? Because I'm sure at that point, it's probably gonna be a little bit more stuff like that, or how would we look at that?
So if you would like to turn to slide 9, we'll just skip ahead. So this is all preliminary right now. So this is all desktop engineering using rules of thumb and past projects as an idea of what the cost and savings would be. Our next step 2, is to sign a letter of intent. And all that letter really says is that we're willing to work with McClure over a duration of time to develop this solar project. In return, we won't work with other vendors. There's no cost to go to this next step to get final costs, final savings. At that point, we would then bring Liberty Curtain into the mix, and then bring all the individual projects to you as standalone sites, and then show you what they look like overall. So that way you can kind of see a breakout of each site individually and make decisions as a board of which sites you'd like to do.
So right now, we're just looking at, okay, we like the idea, let's proceed with getting all this other information.
Correct.
Is that what we're looking for tonight, or, well, Thursday?
Correct. Yeah, just some direction. If you want to move to the next step, we'll get you a sample letter of intent. And basically, like I said, it doesn't cost the district anything for us to move to this final stage. We'll have thousands and thousands of engineering hours into it, getting municipality approvals, figuring out what we need to do at the state level, but with the goal to come back to you in the next 6 months and share with you the results, final costs, final savings, broken down, everything's a la carte, so that you can make a decision.
Okay.
She just said the key word there, municipal approval. Because over in the valley, there's 2 municipalities that are talking about solar systems, and they're having to design planning, and conservation district is involved, the reservoir is involved.
Right.
There's a lot to it, and we would have to get municipality and planning board approval
Yeah.
and all that.
Okay.
before
Yeah, I
we
think-
jump in.
Okay.
And that's all taken care of by you guys.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
None. Thank you.
Thank
Do
you
we
for
have
your
a choice of color of panels?
No. Red.
Bucktail red.
No, maroon for Keystone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the a review of the proposed general fund budget by Joni.
Okay, I'll go ahead and have you guys pull that up. Thank you. All right, this is just the most up-to-date budget numbers that we have. We went ahead and had the finance committee also review this at their last meeting a couple weeks ago. So here you see the budget timeline. And you see we're closing in on that May date where they adopt the proposed final budget to get ready for the final budget in June. The next, whoops. There we go. There we go. So there you see the May 9th and the June 13th dates. Is it the middle button? There we go. All right. The next slide shows if there were no tax increase. You'll see in 23-24, we still have that possible $1.5 million shortfall. In 24-25, you'll see the planned use of budget reserves. You see that 2.1 number. That number represents what was discussed at the finance committee meeting as the 25% match to the DCED grant that we are proposing to go after. That is about a $8.7, I believe, $million grant. 25% is the 2.1. Later on in the agenda, you're going to see a resolution, number 148, if you would agree then to approve the committed funds for that grant match. You see also there's that shortfall of 2.3. That would be a total use of general fund general fund balance of 4.5. That drops your reserve down to about 14 million. When you see the out years projected. The next slide will show you if we were to approve a 1.78 millage increase. That raises about $500,000. Again, that leaves your shortfall of the additional reserve at about 1.3. The 2.1 there you see remains the same. The next slide shows if it were a 3.55 millage increase, that will accumulate about a little over 900,000 in additional revenues. Again, dropping your reserve shortfall to about 3.6. The next slide shows a 75% increase or a 5.34 millage increase. That is a little over 1.4 million additional revenue, and it will drop your shortfall down to about 3.1. It does raise your reserve remaining to about 15.5 million. The next slide shows you, we added this slide to let you know what we're working on to get that shortfall, to close in on that shortfall. Our proactive work to reduce expenses, we are evaluating every open position based on student needs and support. This is done through attrition and resignations. We don't have that final number yet because we're still working through that, and we still have time for people to submit those resignations as well. As you know, we've discussed offering the early retirement incentive to ACE. We do have a couple that have committed to retirement, and that could be somewhere between 80,000 and 300,000. Again, they still have a couple more weeks, I think 2 more weeks to get those retirement commitments in. We also are, you know that you're going to use expenses to offset those, for the grants to offset those district expenses. So we do have to commit funds when we do have grant, not always, but there is typically a grant match. We've also cut all building budget spending as of April 3rd. And I do believe we will cut that shortfall quite a bit. That $1.5 million shortfall, I do believe we'll close in on that, which will help the general fund unassigned balance. We also did a request for proposal for insurance broker services. I believe, I don't have the final numbers in, I'll probably have that for the next meeting, but I do believe there will be a savings somewhere between 20,000 and 50,000. We are also evaluating all school district-wide software. We're seeing what we maybe can consolidate, what we don't need anymore, what's used consistently across the district. One of the packages is our software program. I already know that we will have a savings of at least $30,000. That's projected for July 1 of next year. Potential work to reduce expenses are, we're going to target recruitment back of CTE students coming back to the district. We are analyzing the collapsing of classes per student enrollment. And probably in July or August, I will send out a request for proposal for health insurance benefits. We're probably looking at another, and I'll know this in 2 weeks, another double-digit increase again this year. We are trying to, combat that, but our claims are just, they're just so high that we'll probably look at an 11% increase. I wouldn't be surprised. The next slide shows you then recommendations coming from administration to increase 3.55%. The impact of that would help maintain level tax increases rather than have years without taxes and then a tax increase of a 75% increase. Instead of having the roller coaster, you'd have more level tax increase. Again, I mentioned the expenses of the healthcare, the matching funds, the expenditures for the grant match. We also have, and you've seen the 10-year plan, the capital improvement projects. Right now, next year, we don't have a whole lot committed to go to that capital fund for any kind of improvements. And we have, we have out years and improvements. We also have, emergencies in the next 1 or 2 years that we need to fix. And we'd like to commit some funds to go into that capital fund 32. You'd also want to maintain your fund balance for that revenue generation. We will probably collect interest of around $900,000 this year, but that's because we have that money sitting in there generating that 4 and 5%. So the revenue generated from that will be about 930,000, which would be approximately a $55 per year increase. And just to kind of give you a comparison, we still are, for I think it was 4 years in a row, the 4th lowest in our IU for the mill rate comparison. The next slide will show you if the recommendation, if you would approve the recommendation, or a 25% or the 1.78% tax increase. Again, the same impact as the slide before. It will bring in approximately 465,000 and have a $35 per year average assessed home value tax increase. The next slide shows you, that is the graph that shows you, whoops, go back one, that shows you where we're 4th from the top. So we have the 4th lowest millage rate. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I just wanted to show you the impact and also talk about, here we go. So this shows you in 2023-24, that's the year we're in now, and that shows you the deficit there of the 1.5. If you kind of look down where we have our committed funds in the capital project, PESers, but if you look down to, there's personnel expenses of 1.1. I don't know if you remember, but back in 2021, there was a resolution to commit that money for personnel expenses. It was never spent, and it's been sitting there for a couple of years. And I haven't seen over the past 2 years where we've needed additional money for personnel expenses.
I don't remember this. What was it being saved for?
It was an administrative recommendation. It was for personnel expenses of 1.1. The rationale was unknown impact of pandemic or unemployment, future negotiations, and enrollment. So there was a resolution that was board
I'm
approved
sorry, I don't remember. Okay,
to
thank you.
commit. I can pull the resolution.
No, don't worry. I was
Okay.
just trying to.
But my recommendation would be, because we have not seen a use for that, to uncommit that personnel of the 1.1, put it back in the unassigned fund balance. That will help raise your percentage up because we like that healthy 8% unassigned balance. That will help raise that fund balance. So you're going to see a resolution to uncommit the 1.1 from the personnel and a resolution to commit the 2.1 for the 25% match. You'll see them further down the agenda, 147 and 148. What I wanted to show you on this slide, though, was for 23-24, if we would not close the deficit, what the impact would have for 24-25. You see your general fund balance going from 18 million to 16 million. And then if we wouldn't close the gap of the 2.3 that we're short right now for 24-25, the impact it would have on 24-25. I just wanted to show you how your percentages drop and your fund balance drops. So like I said, we're moving into, stop here. Next meeting where we are to approve a proposed final fund balance. So we are looking for some kind of direction as to how you want to proceed for the next meeting.
Okay, just a couple comments, I guess. That 1.5 million deficit for this school year, is that basically because the Commonwealth did not give us the level up funding?
It was part of that. That was part of that. We also moved some ESSER revenue into next year, so you won't see that revenue come in as well. I do believe, though, I do believe we will close that gap this year, and we might not close it fully, but I don't think it's going to have the impact. It will not change next year's expenses, but it would change next year's unassigned fund balance.
Yeah, my point is, that we're sitting here trying to build a budget, guessing what the Commonwealth is going to provide us.
I would agree.
And they're required by law to provide public education. They lost in court. because they know their funding wasn't fair. They're sitting down in Harrisburg trying to figure out how they're gonna do it. In the meantime, we're sitting here suffering, trying to figure out how we're gonna pay our bills. And with the least impact on the citizens of Keystone Central. We're stuck now because they don't want to do their job. They promised us, what, 4.5 million, almost 5 million last year, and then reduced it about 1.5 million, if I remember correctly. And we built our budget on that 5 million they promised us. So we're sitting here now trying to guess what they're going to promise us for this year, and hopefully we can build a budget accordingly without being too far off. I mean, everyone knows, and if anyone knows anyone that of a representative that can get them off their butts and tell them to do their job and pass a fair funding budget and that they were required to by the court system. That for the most part, all they look at in the 2 years they're in office is how to get reelected. And getting reelected is not going to raise taxes, and they have to raise taxes to fair fund education. And they're pushing it down on us and making us do it because they don't care if we look bad. So
Correct.
they're sitting there. So we're kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place, figuring out where we're going to get money, guessing what they're going to give us, and rubbing the crystal ball.
Right.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, the fact too is, I am using the same basic ed number revenue for, as I did this year, for next year. So you have a flat revenue, but you have expenses. So our revenue is not keeping up with our expenses. And you're right, there's a lot of unknowns. And we don't have any control over that. We can just best estimate, use our best estimates based upon the numbers we have. We could get an additional $1 million, somewhere between 500,000 and even 1.5. But you don't want to build that into your budget, because if you don't get that like level up, then you don't want to have a revenue out there that you're not going to receive.
You can't bet on it. I mean, it's not guaranteed. Kind of like the Phillies not going to the World Series. It's not guaranteed.
That's right.
We know it's going to happen, but.
Right.
Anyone else have any questions, or go ahead, Chris?
We all know grants are not guaranteed.
Correct.
So you can't shine your crystal ball on, hey, we're gonna get a grant. But what can we do to get our expenses lower? Because we all know Clinton County doesn't have the industrial infrastructure that Lycoming County's Center County has to bring in tax revenue. We have people here at our own district that are working here that don't pay Clinton County taxes because they don't live here. And we need to draw people in industry and to help cover taxes. So until we can do that, what can we do as a group to start dropping some expenses? What can we cut out? Can we do a hiring freeze? We all know the insurance and stuff is killing us. Joni's sitting there telling us it's going to go up even more. For every person we hire, it goes up even more. Where can we start diligently looking to cut expenses and cut it back a little bit? Because John Q. Public cannot keep paying all these tax raises. They can't. We're a freight train going down the wrong track. We can't rely on it.
Dr. Evans, you want to address part of that?
Well, I think as Joni pointed out earlier in the presentation, and the one that you have linked in there, there's a list of things that we've been working on to do just exactly that, right? So we're being really careful about what positions we have open and which things we have to hire for and which things we don't have to hire for. And more often than not, it's things that we don't have to hire for. It doesn't mean we're not going to hire anything, because there are some positions that we need to replace as people retire. But we're looking very carefully at the things we actually need and not just the things that we want. And then also there's a bunch of other things on that list that she brought up, from the early retirement incentives, which we believe are going to be a savings for the district, cutting building spending earlier in the year, paying attention to all of our contracts with external providers, whether it be around insurance or other issues where we have external contracts. Are there ways that we can either find different vendors or look to renegotiate contracts? We're doing everything we can that we know how to do in order to help drive down our costs. And every day we're looking for
We have
ways
to.
to do it.
We have to cut our costs, not by thousands of dollars, but by a couple of million. We
Correct.
have to lower it because the taxpayers are moving out. There's nothing here to keep them.
Anyone else?
Can I ask, what is the administration's recommendation as far as you present us with about 3 or 4 scenarios here? What would you see as a reasonable recommendation as far as what we should, to be fiscally responsible?
I mean, if you just base it off the slides that I just showed you, you know, we would like to see the 50% or the 1.55, I think percent it is, or 7.8, but because of bringing in that $935,000, that definitely helps you close that deficit. That helps close the shortfall. I do believe through all these other efforts, we can again close that gap. We can't tell you what the numbers are right now. We're waiting for those early retirement incentive, confirmations to come in. We are working through all of the software and like Frank said, the contracts. And like I said, I do think we will close the gap. I'm not sure we'll close 2.3. So if the board is willing to hit the general fund for that, but then again, that has the impact of revenue generation, that has the impact of, not so healthy fund balance. Again, there's a lot of unknowns. Might the state come back and give us more money? Maybe. I just don't know. So I guess I'd rather go into it feeling comfortable.
What would that reduce if we did 0 tax increase? What would that reduce our fund balance to percentage-wise? I know we're supposed to keep it around 7.5, 8%.
Mhm.
What would that drop it to
If we did what?
if we did 0 tax increase?
That one slide I showed you would drop it to
I
for
mean,
next year,
percentage-wise, would you say?
about 4.2%.
So we dropped to 4
Drop to 4.2% from 8.
So we basically cutting in half.
That's if we don't close the gap this year and don't close the gap next year. And that was also moving, just understand that unassigned fund balance. We moved, if you commit the 2.1 for the match, you have to move that out of the unassigned balance. So that also took 2.1 out of your unassigned and committed it. It
And-
didn't move it out of the whole general fund, but it moved it out of the unassigned.
And if we didn't get the grant and we didn't need to use the 2.1,
Then you would have the choice of uncommitting it, putting it back in the unassigned. It depends on what your year looks like. Maybe we did get additional money, then maybe you would recommend moving some of it to capital funds because of the projects. I mean, again, there's a lot of variables that we don't have a crystal ball to
But
be able to.
even if we don't get the grant, the 2.1, we're still looking at probably $8 million to do the HVAC system here.
If you-
So regardless, we're going to be spending that money one way or the other.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
The money, even though it's sitting in a committed fund, is still being, we still collect interest on it,
Right.
so
So our interest generation would go down.
it would go from 5.25 to about 4%.
Okay. And so basically, when we tap the fund balance, we're basically, if you want to equate it to your home budget, you're living off your savings account.
Yes.
And as I mentioned at the finance committee meeting last week, I think districts do that because they don't want to do tax increases. And Butch is absolutely correct. The blame doesn't, we always get stuck with this. This is like Groundhog Day.
Mhm.
Every single year, we're having this same discussion because the legislators do not do their job. And it's even worse this year because they have been found by the courts to have inadequately funded, not only our district, but across the Commonwealth. And it's very frustrating because we sit here and we have these same conversations every year. And we have no control over a lot of this stuff. We have no control over the insurance increases. We have no control over a lot of these costs. And I certainly, like everybody else, don't want any kind of a tax increase. But I also think whenever you start to tap into your fund balance like that, you're kind of on a slippery slope because you're losing a lot of things. You're losing revenue generation. So, and you need to have a healthy fund balance. We just heard the accountants give us their audit report last month. And that's what they said. That's where we are is in good shape right now. I just hate to see that be reduced just so we can keep up basically what we're doing. So,
Anyone else? Bill?
Jim, that $35-55 tax increase, that was based on the mean property value?
Yes, it's just,
Okay.
it's an
Do you have
average.
any idea how the mean relates to the median or the mode property values?
I don't offhand.
Is that something you could easily find out, or would it be a problem?
No,
If it-
I can get that from
If
the
it's
counties.
easy, I think it'd be interesting. If it's gonna make you pull your hair out, I can live
No,
without
I
it.
can get that from the counties. It's available.
I'd just like to say, Butch, Jeff, I think Wayne Koch would greatly appreciate what you guys just said about the legislators not doing their job. So that's all I got to say.
It's almost every year we're sitting here with a cup begging the government to give us the money that they
It
promised.
really
us.
is.
I mean, when they lost in court for the fair funding, Commonwealth Court said they're not doing it. If would have thought they would have listened to the court, but they're just dragging it on. So we're just sitting
Well, that's
here
why I was
begging and
saying.
begging.
The legislatures may not be doing their job, but are we doing ours on top of it?
So here's maybe a way to think about this. We know that for the past few years, our student numbers have been going down by about 100 students, roughly 3% of our total student enrollment. At the same time, we're being asked to budget on flat funding from the state.
Mhm.
So we're already losing out on 3%
Right.
every year. I'm sorry. Let me restate that. So we have the flat funding, and we know that based on the state's inflationary numbers, that the cost of doing business across the state went up by 7%. So all things being equal, if we had the same number of students and everything else were the same, the cost of doing business would go up by 7%. But we're told to fund flat.
Mhm.
And we lost only 3% of students. So it looks like we're being funded less just this year,
Mhm.
4%. So just cut off the top of our budget, even if everything else were the same, we're losing 4%. That the state is decreasing our funding effectively every year and asking, as Butch you pointed out, is asking the local boards to pick up that difference. in tax
Understand that,
increases.
but I just think that there's probably ways that we can sharpen pencils even harder. That's all. Because the tax base is dying off. Like you said, we're losing students, we're losing money from the state. But everything on this budget that we just looked at for years to come, we're just increasing the debt and increasing the taxes to cover it.
We've known for like ever since I've been on the board, we've had this looming potential bankruptcy always out
Yeah,
there.
this just didn't start. This is.
Yeah, this has been going on for a long time. We all know that, or we have been, whether or not you knew that. I think it would be so much more approachable if the board and the public was given a list that if X amount of something was cut, and like I had said during the finance committee meeting, and then say, give the public a couple weeks to comment, easily, if they're willing to have X, Y, and Z cut. And of course, we're not going to just automatically attack athletics because that's always that's always easy peasy. I'm talking about some real tough things. And if they see those two different lists and they understand the impact that it might have on the kids and the culture in the classroom and bullying, maybe it might be more palatable. But I'm speaking from what people have said to me, that quote, now I'm not talking about low income families, so I'm sorry, I don't have your voice sitting here with me, but I'm talking about medium economic people. They say, I don't mind, Elizabeth, I don't mind paying more taxes as long as I see growth. I see less bullying. I see better reputation. I see happier kids. I see better grades. But they don't feel comfortable, at least the folks that have spoken to me, unless we can show them something besides we are just trying to put our finger in the dam so we don't go bankrupt. Right now, I think that's what we're doing, is we're just putting our finger in the dam so we don't get bankrupt. We're not really, we've been in this kind of stalemate situation for a while. And yes, our curriculum and our CT, and yes, we've done some really great things. Administration has been doing some great things, but we still have sort of the same grades. We still have the same sort of percentage of bullying, minus up and down a little bit, but we're still kind of in this stalemate. So again, few people just come up to me and speak and they say, I don't mind paying more taxes if X, Y, and Z shows growth. So if we're just trying to keep our finger in the dam so we don't go bankrupt, let's just admit it to the public, like, this is the best we can do.
I think we have May 9th, we have to vote on proposed budget. So I think between now and May 9th, you need to do your due diligence, talk to your constituents, see what they want, and then vote accordingly when we have our meeting on May 9th. Because we all have to decide, truthfully, I don't want to see a tax increase. I'm not getting a raise every year, so. But I think we have to do the responsible thing and do what's best for the district and best for the students. So we have to look at it. So I don't think we have time to sit around and talk to everyone like you suggested, Elizabeth, but you have time between now and May 9th to talk to the people in your district.
They already have. That's what I'm saying. I don't.
Accordingly. So
That's
If I could, just real quick on that May 9th, that's when we have to adopt a proposed budget. So we need to know what the board is permitting for whether or not there's a tax change, and if so, at what level, in order for Joni to propose a final budget.
we'll need that by next week.
Yes.
I have to come with a PDE document on May 9th that shows
Right.
what we're going to.
Okay.
Dr.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for Dr. You used a term that I don't understand. You said something about, I think, flat budgeting or flat funding.
Yeah,
You know,
so
could you
the-
explain that to me?
Actually, Joni, why don't you take that, the idea that they told us to work off of the 23 million for last year, or for this year and next year.
I'm sorry, what was, I didn't
The
hear
flat
that.
funding.
Flat funding.
What, the term flat funding, what does it mean?
Fair funding?
Flat funding. The state told us to work with a flat funding.
Understood. Sorry, didn't understand the question. So for basic ed, our subsidy from the state, they basically said, whatever you receive this year, which is 23 million, also use that same number for 24, 25. So there is no
Understand.
increase.
Okay,
That's
now I
what I mean by
understand.
flat.
Okay.
So our
Gotcha.
expenses are going up, but our
Okay.
revenues remaining flat, and
Gotcha.
that's our problem.
Okay,
They already,
Thank you.
said they acknowledged that the inflationary rate is 7%. That's where those numbers came from that we're using, but they're telling us to stay flat. So they know it's just everything increased 7%, but they're not increasing anything they give us. So if there's nothing else on the budget. We're gonna just move on. Thank you, Jenny. Next, we're gonna hear from the student government reports. Bucktails first.
So I guess I'll start off tonight with some of our fundraiser announcements and updates. The student government will be holding a donut day fundraiser April 10th. We'll have about 200 or so donuts for the students to buy. Likely we'll have a table set up in the gym lobby. So when students come in first thing in the morning, if they have $1.50, they can buy a donut. They can buy as many as they want. And then don't worry, our teachers are not left out. They're all given order forms. They can get their own donuts. The Bucktail Environmental Club held a fundraiser selling handmade peanut butter and chocolate dipped eggs. We sold over 300 eggs and the fundraiser brought in almost $1,000 for us. This money will be used to fund basically bus bills for most of it, so we can get out and do things like trash cleanups and just other volunteer work in the community. The student government plans to work with the Heritage Park in the future to plan some community events that will help tie together the high school and the elementary school in the community. Just try to get people engaged in the school and with their students. Next, I wanted to highlight some of our sports teams again. The softball team is already starting off this year strong with a 3-0 lead. The baseball team, although it doesn't boast the same record as the softball team, I've heard that this year they're seeing big improvements in culture and just overall mood. I've heard that they're not as upset from the losses because our losses this year aren't as big. So this year's senior class actually passed all of their senior projects, and they were very excited to be able to wear cherry and white again for our graduation ceremony. And I just have one last message from our senior class. Their senior trip is on tonight's board agenda. They would like to ask if you could please approve that because they are very excited for it.
Yummy donuts.
And that is all that I have for tonight.
Thank you, Mark. Next, how about Central Mountain Middle School? No one from the middle school?
Hi, my name is Addison Kramer, and I'm the 6th grade student government representative at Central Mountain Middle School. We have been working hard at hearing our student needs and providing them with solutions. Working with administration and the cafeteria staff, we've arranged an opportunity for students to purchase additional snacks during winter. Students will have the choice between 5 snack options priced from 80 cents to $1.40. We're currently only offering this once a week, but depending on its success, we will look at increasing this opportunity for the students. In addition to this, students in 7th grade have expressed to our 7th grade representative the desire to sit where they wish at lunch, and it is currently a work in progress. Based on positive behaviors, students have been allowed to choose where to sit once a week. They will continue to monitor the progress of the lunch and provide more opportunities for students to sit where they want if all goes well. We have some exciting news about our students at Central Mountain Middle School. Our reading competition teams traveled to Forest Hill High School on March 20th. The Wandering Readers placed Grand Champion Edition in 1st place, and our other team, the Masterminds, placed 2nd. We are extremely proud of them and thankful for their coaches, Mrs. Vogel, Mrs. Brown, and all the volunteers who helped. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Next, Central Mountain High School.
So I am Jonas Madel. This is Claire Bowman, McKenna Gray, and Victoria Guthrie, and we will be presenting to you the general formation of our student government and how it will be working with students and communicating as a bridge to you or between you and the students, as well as our own administration. So the mission statement is something that was very important to us and is the first thing that our students will see when they look at our Constitution, when they are presented with it. it states that exactly what I just said. We are the bridge between students and administration. And hopefully we can change and produce better results for the school and students going forward. We're all good there. So the student government is built up so that the student body, that is, all of our students will vote for their General Assembly representatives. That's a body of 12 students. That would be 4 from each grade level. Is it 3? Oh, sorry, 3. I haven't had a math class this year.
Oh, no.
The student body will vote for their General Assembly representatives, and those General Assembly representatives will then vote up at a higher level for the cabinet being comprised of students who are experienced in the General Assembly. So right now, us 4, including Ricky and Brody Ryan, who is not here, are the current cabinet, and then elections for the General Assembly will be happening later in the year.
Can you?
Get the microphone, please?
Yeah, thank you.
So it was really important to us whenever constructing our constitution and how people would be elected that we could represent every kind of student in the school body. We didn't want to put any restraints on it that you had to be an honor student or play a sport and extracurriculars or things like that, because we wanted to really represent our school well. And not every kid plays a sport or likes music or likes student government. If you put in the effort, you could represent your school and speak for the kids that are like you. So any student can run for the General Assembly and you'll be elected by your peers. You'll have to give a speech and just put an effort to show that you want to be part of the group and make a difference. That was really important to us. And then once we elect our General Assembly, they will elect our cabinet members or officers, just because they will be from our cabinet, or they will be from our General Assembly, so they'll have experience working with students, goals, and how our group functions.
So we have a cabinet of 6 students with 6 different roles. The first role is the president, which is sort of self-explanatory. Their role is to guide the cabinet and the General Assembly through each meeting, much like a board president. The vice president will take on the president's duties if necessary, and aid the president in whatever they need. The secretary, that would be myself, will record council meetings and take notes, and also be available to reference previous meetings or past bills. The parliamentarian will, their essential role, that is Brody Ryan, will make sure that we are running by our bylaws. They'll know what's going on. They'll know this is a thing we passed, this is a thing we are allowed to do, as well as any relevant district policies or previous board policies. The communications officer, that is Richard Fantasy, will act to convey information from our cabinet meetings and our General Assembly meetings to our student body, so they're aware. We'll be using social medias that our students are on, like Instagram, perhaps TikTok, if it doesn't get me. And then the school board representative, that's Claire Bowman, will attend, as she has been, all the working meetings and be the voice of our student government and our administration to you.
She could
so
grab the
there's-
handheld there.
Look at the bottom, push the button and hold it until it turns green.
There you go. Did it work?
Yep, there you go.
So basically, we have our rules in place for how members are elected and, how they generally get there. So the officers themselves will be elected by the General Assembly after the General Assembly is elected by the student body. So each term, as I'm aware, for the officers and for the General Assembly is 1 year. We didn't want to make it too long or too short, as it works with different changes in the school, different grade levels and such. So our elections for officers are in May, and they will continue to serve through the summer up to the school year in case because there's still things during the summer. School isn't during the summer, but there's still many changes that can happen and things that can affect the students directly. And then the General Assembly, the elections are held in September and is majority vote by their peers.
So our goals are, as presented in the mission statement, to meet with administration and act as that bridge between students and administration and the board. The General Assembly will be meeting either weekly or bi-weekly, and we would like to continue to have a presence at these board meetings, having Claire come up to speak every month. We'll have monthly town hall meetings where any student would be able to voice their ideas, opinions, concerns, and sort out what we can take care of for them. And we want to affect change at all levels to improve our school.
Oh, so that's just a lovely picture of us. So you have our president, Jonas Madel, our vice president, Victoria Guthrie, myself, the secretary, McKenna Gray, our parliamentarian, Brody Ryan is not here, our communications officer, Richard Fantastic, is back there somewhere, and our school board representative, Claire Bowman, is right here. Do you have any questions or comments?
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
This is exciting. So I'm just hoping that your advisor, however you decide to do it, we'd love to see some of your accomplishments, working with the superintendent, principals, if it ever, goes into the newspaper or something, because you're setting a foundation for something that's going to grow and grow after we're all gone. So I'd really like the founders to get some sort of accolades when you get a little more, you're focused a little more ready to go, but waiting a long time for this. We can't thank you enough.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to make it really clear and give some credit here. The two girls that started this last school year and some other people who started, they were the main founders. Elise Sagan is back there with us today, and Sophia Dress currently at States for Skills USA. But this was important enough for them to come to board meetings last year and make a change. So we're all here because of them, and I think that's really important.
Well said. Very well. That's great. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you.
We'd like to also give thanks to our wonderful principal, Mr. Vrelli, who has also been with us through everything to make everything that we're doing happen.
Apparently you're just making up for that no math comment.
Really, you don't have to butter him up, honestly.
I just, if I could just add, I'm sat here and I'm extremely impressed with how you laid this out. It's obviously you took it very seriously. You put a lot of thought into it with every step and how it was done, and I'm very impressed. You guys did a great job, everybody involved. So keep up the great work.
Okay, moving right along. Superintendent's report. Dr. Redmond.
Okay. Every year, the Central Intermediate Unit puts out a document that talks about all of the mandates that the state has for the sort of reports that we have to produce and the things we have to do. Last year's booklet was 77 pages long. This year's booklet is 87 pages long. So between that last year and this year, they've added more things that we have to do. Most of those things that they're asking us to do, they're not, well, it's more unfunded mandates. They're asking us to do more with less. So I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that that PDE and the legislators are asking us to do more stuff, and they're not really helping us out with supporting that extra administrative load. On April 17th, Joni and I will be attending a State Association of Superintendents Budget and School Finance meeting. So not only are we spending hours a day looking at the ways that we can reduce our costs, we're also looking at ways that we can learn from the rest of the folks in the state who are wrestling with the same issues. So again, just kind of letting you all know that we're not just sitting on our own heads trying to figure this out. We're also looking across the state to see how other people are trying to wrestle the same bear. Want to check in with you on April 20th. I know that I've communicated you on my weekly memo about whether or not April 20th works. I know that doesn't for everybody.
I'm working.
But I wanted just to verify with the rest of you if that's the best possible date that we can come up with in the short term to do a board retreat. And we're talking about 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, April 20th. So put that on your calendars if you could, please. And we'll make sure we take good notes for you, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. All 9 of us.
I've been to this, no problem.
As you may have, or I guess may not have noticed, it's been raining for the last couple of days. And as you saw that we had to go home a little bit early yesterday and come in a little bit late today, I really want to give a shout out to Rob and to Shelley, who did a great job of kind of keeping track of where the buses were and what kind of things we needed to do to get kids to and from safely on the buses. So I really appreciate, Shelley, your expertise in working with Cam and keeping us aware, and Rob, your connections with PennDOT and others to make sure that we're keeping kids safe. And I don't like to cancel school because I'd rather kids be with us, but there are times when it's better to not try to transport kids. So thank you to both of them. Last thing I have is Tracy Long has been reaching out to you and will continue to do so to try to set up meetings where it's you and me, or one of you and me, are just spending some time to develop our relationship. Again, as part of our team of 10 development. And my plan is to have a meeting with one of you every other week on kind of a rotating basis. So just look for those emails if you haven't seen them already from Tracy. We're trying to find the best time of day for you, best day of the week, best place for you. So look forward to those if you haven't seen them already. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next to hearing of visitors, Michelle. And it's always the board welcomes comments from our community. However, the board protocol is that the board will not engage with speakers or respond during public commentary.
Sorry. First off, thank you. Thank you for hearing me. Let me get my stuff together here. A lot going on here. First off, I enjoyed the reading from Dr. Redmond on March 14th on policy 611 and 508, which requires the full board approval of expenditures over $100. I'm not convinced that this issue was conveyed appropriately to your solicitor. I'm not exactly sure how he is figuring the way that he is. My concerns on violations of section 508 are much more than paper towels. It concerns approving contracts at the committee level without full board approval. Now, you had mentioned about regarding policy 611. Most of it was irrelevant because it deals with purchases. I'm arguing contracts that have met their ceiling and exceeded the initial approved amount by the full board. And also, policy isn't law. So you're always referring back to the law, and it seems here that we've gone full circle and we're coming right back to 508. So we have 3 change orders on the agenda today.
for a total expenditure of $16,163.88. And they up every single one of these contracts. You're changing your contract values without full board approval. So I dug up some case law for you because I know attorneys like that, and so do I. Oral and written modifications to existing contracts are also subject to the 508 vote requirement. In Wayne Moving and Storage of New York Incorporated versus School District of Philadelphia, the school district entered into valid contracts for consolidating administrative buildings and complied with the 508 voting requirement. Later, after unexpected delays, the school administrator agreed to pay additional expenses incurred by the moving company. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals refused to enforce the additional $830,000 incurred by the moving company because the school board failed to approve. The full school board did not approve the additional expenses with the required 508 vote to amend the contract. Pennsylvania courts have maintained a strict interpretation of the 508 vote requirement. Oral and written contracts exceeding $100 must receive a majority vote of the full school board to be enforceable. Contracts that are not approved through the 508 vote requirement are subject to legal challenge. So you're probably saying, well, Michelle, why do you care? Because I'm always in support of people who want to be supportive and good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And you're setting yourselves up for failure. And the reason being is that change orders can end up in court and cost taxpayer dollars. Not only is it likely that contractors will win, just as that last court case I read to you, they did. It's not only that, but you have to pay the attorney fees because you have to be represented in court. So that's an additional expense. So why not do the right thing to begin with? Be good stewards of taxpayer dollars and work to protect taxpayer money against possible legal issues to begin with. Just do it the right way. I don't know why in the world you would support anything by approving it at committee anyway. Why do any of you think that you have the right to speak on behalf of the full board? Anyway, thank you. That's all I have to offer. I hope that you will consider it because I think that the path you're going down is very dangerous and it's going to come back and bite you.
Thank you. Moving right along. Committee reports. Policy committee, did you have a meeting?
We had a meeting and we went through a bunch of different policies that we're gonna have come up here in a little bit. There's a couple of them and I'm a little fuzzy on some of the things that we talked about. I don't know if you want me to ask it now or do we want to get into it when we open up the read? So that would be it, but we put a bunch of things up for first read. So we can address that when we get down to it.
Safety and security that made curricular, co-curricular.
We didn't meet.
Didn't meet. Personnel negotiations, Tracy.
We've met a couple of times. We've been working on the support contract. We're in the final contract phases of that, so that might be soon. And working on just different ways, talking about the budget of how we can deal with retirements and resignations and attrition and doing what we can there, so.
Facility committee, Jeff.
Okay, facilities. A lot of what we talked about, you've already heard this evening. The first item the main thing that we discussed at that meeting was the solar presentation from Alyssa. She was there to give us basically the same presentation that you saw this evening. And we discussed that at pretty good length and decided we should ask her to come back tonight. Second thing we talked about were the change orders that we discussed last time. And they appear on tonight's agenda later on. I think there's one additional one that was for a movement, a shift in the sewer line. And I think the rationale behind that was for the compactor, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Rob. By moving the sewer line to so it's closer to the compactor. It was able to, you were able to empty the, whatever the residue, that comes from the compactor rather than having to pay to have, it just would be a lot more expensive to do it, not move it. And I think that amount was relatively small. The other thing that we discussed, that Joni mentioned, was about the grants that we've applied for, the 5 PCCD grant that for digital radios and key swipe system to update it, staff, and for some mental health grants. And the two that she's already mentioned about the one that we need to set aside the $2 million for the match for. Hopefully we'll get that grant for the HVAC system here. And we also got an update on some of the things where we are with the Liberty Curtain project. I think they're still on target to pour concrete next week for footers and so on. And I think that was pretty much it for facilities.
Go ahead, Chris. Jeff, on the facilities, are we over budget, as Michelle said, or are we under budget?
On what? On
Liberty Curtain. The reason I'm asking, because I said last month at the meeting, I said, we're gonna keep doing change orders and stuff is gonna keep coming up. And it can get us in trouble,
We have not exceeded our budget.
but we're exceeding what the contract is that was already written, right?
No.
No,
The
in any
200,000.
And in contract, you build in some amount of anticipated changes, and we're still under the amount that we had anticipated for.
What happens when we get close to the end and we need 3 million more?
That's pretty speculative. I don't know if I can answer that.
Why would we need 3 million more? I don't.
Well, because all these change orders, I mean, change orders, I'm gonna tell you now, I know you can say everything you want, that change orders are needed. But when you're doing it one after one after one, they're gonna end up in court. I got a phone call after our last meeting.
I think we talked about the change orders on tonight's agenda are the same ones we discussed at great length last month.
And we're adding one.
The two that we talked about at great length, what is on here now is actually a reduction in the cost we showed last month, so they're down. The additional one is we're gonna add a small part of a sewer line to the outside of the building to allow us to hook a compactor to it. That way, when the compactor compacts the garbage, the moisture has to go somewhere. Either we're gonna haul it to the landfill and pay the tonnage rate on it, or we're gonna let it go down in the septic and the sewer system. So that's why that line's on there.
We're doing a lot of things out of order, Butch. Was there a site assessment done up there?
Everything was done, yes.
There was?
Yes.
Because I can't find anything on the site assessment.
But
nothing.
That change order is $3,600. It's not $3 million.
Well,
and all of these change orders that we've approved to this point, I believe, let's say, one was 11,000, one was $1,200, and this one is $3,600. So that's well
we're gonna
under.
change order
And I really doubt that we are going to be running into tons of change orders with this on new construction.
Well, we got
Certainly
3
not.
in 1 month already.
Yeah, of course. But as I said, those dollars are built in, and I don't see any of these that are exorbitantly expensive.
Okay.
Moving on from facilities. Excuse me, Finance Committee, please.
Okay, Finance Committee, a lot of, again, what was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, we've already talked about. Joni did the budget update that we saw tonight. The same exact one. We talked about the grants, the matching numbers that we have to come up with. And the 2 resolutions to commit and decommit the funds that she mentioned here earlier tonight. And also we talked about the money market rates and so on and moving the $360,000 that we made in the 3 months into the capital projects fund. And that's, oh, and we're going to be looking into a new software, accounting software system. They're looking at CSIUs and Skyward software, and they're looking at them right now and deciding which one, and that would hopefully be ready to go by July of 25 after they've done all the preliminary work. That's it.
Miss Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you. I'd just like to make another formal request that superintendent and or the president contacts the school board solicitor and has him review the Crabtree recommendation letter that stated that the committees would have the ability to make financial decisions. I'm still requesting that the solicitor review it and give us written and oral description on any comments he may have.
Thank you. Next, information and discussion items. Treasurer's report. Any questions on that? Any questions on a financial report? Enrollment report. Any questions? Go ahead.
That's all right. There's a couple items on there that I'm kind of interested in. Since Rob's here, maybe he can answer it. We have $94,000 for installation of exterior doors. And then right above that, we have $42,000 of installation of exterior facility doors. What's up with that? Oh, maybe.
So that might, yeah.
Well, that's all right. I am on the wrong page, but that's okay. I still have that question.
There's exterior doors that were being replaced throughout the district. It was a 10-year plan item. And it was also a grant, BCCD grant. We were awarded about 2 years ago. And I think the monies have to be expended by July of this year. Johnny might know better. I don't see Johnny anymore, but it was all grant funded project that
Okay,
we were
what was the
awarded.
need to replace them though? Were they
Rusted, old, didn't close.
aluminum frame?
Some were aluminum frame, some
They
were
don't
steel.
rust.
What's that?
They don't rust.
They do corrode though.
So
It seems kind of, we sat here for almost 2 hours now discussing about how we're going to cut the budget. And here we go with $94,000 of spending on
how many
doors.
doors was that, Rob, do you recall?
I don't have the exact number and I
mean, combined, you're over $1 million, aren't you?
No.
No, you're 100,000.
These were doors that were with,
you're
majority were at the high
$200,000.
school. The gym doors, they were metal doors. A lot of them wouldn't even open and close anymore. We had security stuff because they would, when somebody would go out them, they wouldn't reclose. So from a safety and security standpoint, the money was allocated through, I think, a safety and security grant. And we were able to replace those doors and ultimately keep kids safer because one of the worst things is our doors don't close. Somebody leaves and it's hanging wide open. Somebody comes up, pulls it and can get in. So I thought it was a great opportunity when a way to get our doors replaced. And it was zero cost to the district because we were awarded grants for that.
But it still come out of the same fund. though.
Yeah.
Granted a couple years ago to help fund the doors that were pretty much deteriorating. They were past their shelf life.
And we didn't fix them then.
So they've been replaced. We had a policy, we had a plan in place that we were going to replace so many doors a year.
Yeah.
Through our capital projects. We got a grant to replace the doors instead of taking it out of our funding. So the
Okay.
grant, we replaced I think pretty much all the doors.
Yeah, there's only a handful, maybe 8 or 10 sets of doors
No,
at
we did
district now
replace
that
it.
are,
So instead of doing it piecemeal, 4, 5, 6, whatever doors that we could afford a year, we got a grant to do them all. We did it all within the last 2 years that it's being done.
Yeah, because I just seen that and I thought, well, seems kind of excessive.
it was an item that was brought forth from the safety and security of a true issue. Basically because the doors would not open and would not shut. We addressed it. It was brought through facilities. It was voted on by the board.
So it's been a couple years now, so
Yeah.
any other questions on it?
No, that's what I got there.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Yep.
Any other questions on financial or enrollment? Moving down through 8, the superintendent's retreat. Dr. Redmond, you want to explain what that is, please?
Sure. In the fall, September, there's going to be, they call it a retreat. It's basically a conference with IU 10, 11, and 8, where we're gonna, basically, it's the superintendents from all 3 of those IUs to get updates on legislation that was passed, the budget, and networking across those 3 IUs. So I'm asking for permission to go to that in September. Location will be in Hershey.
Questions? No? Okay, the grant application authorization. If you look down through that, it lists quite a few different grants that we're applying for. As you know, we're trying to apply for grants pretty much all the time. We have a list we're going after.
They were the ones that I mentioned.
Yeah,
that we talked
we
about.
talked about, and if you see, a lot of them are school safety grants for different items. There's a mental health grant. The big one is the public school improvement grant through the state now. That's the one that's going to take the $2.1 million matching fund. And that's why the next item on there is the grant resolution 147. For us to commit to 2.1, we have to show the state that we have 25% of the matching grant set aside. So we're going to take it from, we have to commit it from our fund balance and have it as committed for this grant. Questions on any of that? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. No, these are all through Pennsylvania government, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. I'm hoping that one of our local representatives will let us know what representative is sitting on these committees where these get reviewed so they can champion these for us. I just wanted to put that in there because it usually has a very positive end result if the local representative will champion these inside those buildings for us. So
I just have one thing to say there. We're applying for grants for key swipes to put on the doors that we just installed. Correct?
So different systems. So the doors are the physical doors themselves, and then these are
And
to replace
we-
the lock systems.
So we're gonna try to get $900,000 now to put locks on the doors that we just put in.
oh, it's the key, the key swipe that you have.
Yeah.
We
I don't
have,
know how much you can talk about.
we have
it,
those
but
key
it's-
swipes now.
Yeah.
They're old.
They're
They've been-
a proprietary system that are starting to break down that they don't make repair parts for anymore.
Right.
So the hope is to go ahead and try to replace system, it's district-wide, the system
Yeah.
district-wide.
And the doors were district wide too.
Right.
I'm just curious, why we didn't put new locks on the doors when we put them in?
They're not locks.
They're not locked
they're like the
doors,
black
they're
boxes
security
they're out
doors.
here.
Are they,
They're not,
do they deny you access?
Tom, I can speak to the doors that we did put in and were part of this grant. We did include the electronics that are inside the frames, the wiring in the frames, so that the next phase would be for the card access system. So as we upgrade to a newer card access system, the doors and the stuff that we put in, we don't have to tear it back out. We don't have to add stuff to it. The majority of the stuff that we could put on and we could cover with the grant dollars is in there. So we tried to, we know we have to do it in phases over a period of time because it is expensive. As Dr. Redmond alluded to, the stuff is getting old. We literally, we have to source parts, used parts to fix some of our card access system. It's 25 years old. So we've taken the necessary steps with any of the replacement doors. We put proximity sensors on them. We put so they know where the doors that our police can see the doors are open or closed, some of those kind of stuff. And the next step would be the next grant would start to tie that together. We try and take, anytime we do a project like that, we try and look forward to what the need is, and we try and do it so we don't have to tear stuff back out. We don't have to basically redo things. So I think that between our safety and security people, our committee, and our administration, we're trying to be forward thinking in that matter.
I mean, I'm not against safety. I'm not against spending money on safety. I'm just wondering why we put doors in with outdated stuff then. That's what it is.
We didn't put doors in with outdated stuff. We put new doors in, and as we add the card swipe system to it, it'll integrate to it. Some of the doors that were existing, had existing card access on it, they got tied together with the old card access system. When the new card access system comes, then it'll replace the box that's on the outside and tie in. But the forethought has been put into it already so that we can try and make that a seamless thing. We don't tear out frames. We're not adding anything to the doors we just purchased.
Okay. Next, like I said, the next is the resolution to commit the funds for the 2.1 million. Any questions on that? Next is resolution 148 to uncommit funds. That was the $1 million personnel. 1.1, okay, I'm sorry. That we talked about earlier. Joni discussed. Any questions on that? Next is a donation of a hospital bed, a geriatric bed, I guess it is, from Robert Pelcourt to the CTC program, I believe. So. Questions on that? I just want to thank Bob for doing that. Thank you very much. It's probably something that we need in the program. It's not going to cost us money. It's going to help us out considerably. Next, we have an out-of-state field trip. That's Renova Elementary takes an annual trip to Corning. Any questions on that?
That isn't the senior trip, right?
No. That's-
Okay.
The next one. is-
Right.
And the next one is the overnight field trip, Bucktown High School class is going. And it's no cost to the district, the senior class pays for all that. Any questions on that?
Well, I don't know. Martin took off out of here, so I don't know. Maybe we ought to just deny it because he took off.
Well, Martin's not a senior. It won't affect Martin, so he doesn't care. So. Next up, we have our policies, first read. Chris, you said you had some comments on a couple of policies.
Yeah, let me get into here. We go into our policies. The current delegation of responsibility was one of the ones we talked about. I don't remember that we discussed taking the supervision completely away from administration.
Which policy are you referring to?
100.
That is not on
No,
our
no,
list.
it's not on the list.
Hang on here. It's the current events delegation of
Current events.
responsibility.
Okay, so that's 119.
Oh, number two.
119.
That was,
Yes, 119, the current event, sorry. I had the wrong screen up. Down towards the center of it says delegation of responsibility. I don't remember us deciding the superintendent shall to cross out that he shall develop administration regulations for the management, did we?
Yeah,
Did we?
yeah, we did.
Okay, cause I was reading through that after the fact, and I was like, I think somebody should be in charge of that. To delegate the responsibility. That was
So-
my thought.
So ultimately, the teachers, first of all, have the facilitator of the discussion in a non-persuasive manner. And the principals are the first line of responsibility. And then it comes to the central office. So this doesn't sidestep the kind of chain of command system that we're. already have
Okay,
in place.
that's what I wanted to make sure. Then policy 121, the field trips. We changed a bunch of stuff in there. The parental and guardian thing, we kind of left that in. But did we decide on there needs to be no chaperones or anything on these? I don't remember us discussing that, and it's all crossed out now.
Which section are you looking at?
Going down to the bottom,
What page?
under the chaperones. For the field trips. That whole section and even staff and everything right now and behavior participation, everything was
Page
crossed
4
out.
or 5.
Yeah, I don't see, yeah, okay, page 4. We not gonna have any chaperones or anything?
No, is that part of the administrative regulations?
Yeah, that would be part of
For-
the administrative.
Okay.
regulations.
So it got moved to the
They are.
ARs.
They are,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
that's why, okay, yep.
And, let's see. That was really all I had on any of it. I know everything else was good. I just, when I reread that, I'm like, wait a minute.
So the policy committee is recommending that we approve all these at first read?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on any of them?
Nope.
Next up, we have the minutes from the various meetings. Any questions on any of the minutes?
Yeah,
Jay.
yeah. The,
The minutes.
basically, there was,
Which
the
minute you
minutes
talking-
about our,
Which minute are you talking about, Bill?
I guess it was the work meeting.
No, the voting meeting, I had a
Voting
question
meeting,
on.
that's right. yeah.
On page 3. We're bringing it up here. There's only one small mistake there. Under H.
Okay.
Change order procedure vote.
Yeah, that was Roger that seconded that, not me. Has Mr. Elling made the motion to approve item H1? Or, no, this is Mr. Elling made it, and I seconded it.
I don't need to take credit. Just saying.
No, but I didn't second it as well.
Oh, okay.
That was under the, when Mr. Johnston called the question.
Question, yeah.
Well, that's where
yes.
where I was getting at, is that, I think it should be clear, this, it just says,
Said Mr. Johnson
I'm
called the
sorry.
Called the
question,
Here we go,
seconded
yeah,
by
there
me.
we go.
That was seconded by Roger as well.
Yeah, it said roll call vote, but it was a vote on the motion to limit debate. I think that should be clarified in there.
I think it's just a typo.
Which,
Yeah, just clarify. Yeah, just
Take
needs
the
cl-
roll call vote off of
Well,
there.
no, leave the roll call vote on. You have to clarify that it was, the vote was to call the question, which would essentially stop the debate. Once the question was called, you stop debate. When it failed, then we went back into the debate, so.
Right. The discussion continues to suggest
Continue,
that, but we
yeah.
can put a line up there.
Yeah. If you just, Which is Mr. Johnson called the question, seconded by, could be Mr. Elling. If you just make that larger and emphasize that. So, and because down below you have it, the vote failed and discussion continued.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
Okay, I missed one. I wanted to bring up something about a couple of the policy things, if we could. Talk about them both, the concussion and the sudden cardiac arrest. I think that the definition or the prescription for who gets to evaluate the kids should be tightened.
What page
I-
are you looking at?
Looking at policy, what is it? Policy manual 123.1.
123. Yeah, concussion and sudden cardiac arrest.
Okay.
For right now, and it's a licensed physician, okay, trained in the evaluation management, a licensed or sort of healthcare professional. I mean, if you really want to be careful about this, I mean, a concussion, unless they've changed the definition since I went to school, it's pretty simple. If they're, if they're a little loose, they've had a concussion. Definition of a concussion is transient interruption in cerebral function. So if you kind of get your bell rung, you've had a concussion.
Well, what we took out of that was if a medical professional was found involuntary, they got a first violation originally, then a second, then a third, and it went through the steps. We're taking those steps out. It's pretty much if you screw up and don't do the right protocol online, you're in trouble. You don't get a first, second, and third chance. That's what we took out of there.
Well, I don't see anything in there, but it's, I don't know how much a psychologist, whether they're neurophysiologically trained or not, knows about the treatment of trauma.
Well, that's why I think in there it says, trained in the evaluation and management of concussions. So they have to demonstrate they have that specific training.
Right.
If you go down under the hammer, the whole world's a nail. I would like to see that, I mean, I'd be happier if that was removed. As for going back, I think they should be seen by a neurosurgeon or a neurologist. I'd feel, I mean, unless it was something very minor, I'd feel uncomfortable with clearing a kid. And then,
Well, let me ask you this, Bill. For, let's say, football, get a kid out there, ends up getting knocked in the head, all right? The trainer's there. The trainer says, now, he's got a concussion. We're benching him for right
That's
now.
fine,
Keep
yeah.
in mind on that.
Taking him out is fine.
And then, after that, okay, I think where the evaluation comes in is that then he has to be evaluated by someone. Is that correct?
Yes.
A medical professional, like we were talking before.
Yeah.
Like doctor or whoever.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it's set up for.
Okay, it's just voicing my concerns.
Well, hey, you're the medical guy.
The next one is even more fun, the sudden cardiac arrest. I love this here.
Which policies?
It's the one right underneath it,
123.2.
0.2.
This I thought was interesting. A student who has determined by a game official, coach from the student's team, certified trainer, licensed physician, or other official, blah, 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 exhibits signs or symptoms of cardiac arrest while participating in the athletic and shall be removed from the coach from the participation. So you don't put a guy that just died back in the game.
Sorry, it's not funny. It's not
But
funny, but
that's, I mean, it's like,
the way the verbiage and
but the more of concern is the next one is until evaluated and cleared for return to participation in writing by a licensed physician, certified registered nurse practitioner, give me a break, or cardiologist. I don't even think it should be a licensed physician. I think it should start at least with a cardiologist. Because I'm a heart surgeon and I wouldn't want to clear a kid because of the mechanism of what might have happened. Just my opinion.
Do we have any idea what the athletic?
This is right from
I know, but
PSBA.
I don't
and
care
part-
where it's from.
Part of this is coming
It's-
from, I'll answer Elizabeth's question.
Yeah, okay.
Part of this is coming from the PIAA protocol for athletics also. And I know that part came, I did part of this, but any coach in any has to have those two, concussion and cardiac. with PIAA, and this is all part of that. It's coming from that. It's from PIAA and PSBA.
Well,
that is a real interesting point. I mean, I personally don't know anything about. I'm aware of the situation where a person can get a concussion if they're hit or blown in the head. I understand the physiological part, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything about the insurance part or the legality part or the details because I'm not a physician. So I don't know, but is there someone that you would want administration or solicitor or to find out if this would hold up in court or something? I don't know.
Doesn't matter what the solicitor said. I'd still, my opinion as a physician, is that if a kid has it, he should at least be seen by a cardiologist, maybe even a subspecialist cardiologist to tell you the truth. Look how long that that guy from Buffalo, how long it took him to say he was okay. And that they're spending money out the gazoo, well, that guy was, it's, the problem is you got to look for some fascinomas. I mean, apparently in him, it ended up being that he just got hit. If you get hit at the wrong place at exactly the right time, you can put the heart into fibrillation. That's what happened to him. But there's a lot of things you have to rule out to get to that point. And all I'm saying is a licensed physician, the average general practitioner probably isn't going to have a good handle on that. And I know damn well a registered nurse practitioner isn't, So I'm just saying, if you're going to put this through, just draw a line through that, say a cardiologist.
Would you rather take advice from a heart doctor or a person that writes policies?
Inclined to agree if a person has an episode, they should be removed from playing all right then and there and taken immediately to the hospital, and that's it.
I would suggest then the policy committee recommend we table those.
I
and
think we
review
should
them.
send them back to the policy.
I would say
So
let's
that's what I
table
would-
them and bring it back and talk about it.
That's what I would suggest you do next week at the meeting. I would suggest those ones get tabled. Move on.
You come to the policy meeting and sure.
So what was it? What day
Okay.
is it?
Moving right along.
We'll talk.
Any other questions on the policies? Okay, we're down into business. Bills for payment. Any question on any bills?
The only one I had, and I don't have the page marked down, is we're renting an excavator for $1,402.81. Okay. I was just wondering what we were renting one
We
for.
we don't own an excavator. We don't need them that
I
often.
thought we had one. Okay.
When we need one, he rents it. Any questions on the IU transportation agreement? The audit contract for school nursing.
Same.
Change
Oh,
order for.
that one, there was some wording in,
Anybody have a
healthcare
contract?
aide appeared and nurse appeared, and it, you know, it could be a little confusing. I mean, what are we looking for? We looking for a homeless, what was it? I mean,
Home health. aide.
home health aide, or are we looking for a nurse?
Is that for here to school or at somebody's house?
This is a contract for a student and it is a home health aide. The student previously had services paid for by their own personal medical access, but because of their age, that now falls on the responsibility of the district. So it is for the student to remain with us for the remainder of the school year and then to attend the extended school-wide program.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up, there's at least one or two places in here where they, or maybe even more, where they say nurse. Okay, so it could put you, you know, if you're looking for a home health aide, it's not that doesn't have to be a nurse. I think we should eliminate nurse from the, I think there are two different skill levels.
Their own insurance doesn't cover that?
Not once they reach a certain age, no, becomes the school's responsibility. So I can go back and have them look at that
Okay,
contract.
here
It's
we are, right
probably
off of the top here. It
basic
says
language.
Qualifications of personnel. The nurse supplied by BIATA shall be a home health aide. Right off of the bat, is it a nurse or is it a home health aide? Because you're looking at different levels.
Two different
of
things.
skill.
Yes, this is a home health aide.
Well, okay, I'm just saying we need to maybe clean this up a little bit, rid of the nurse
Certainly.
notations.
Maybe get with Bayard and just have them clarify that, whether it's nurse or HHA.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the change orders that we discussed last month at great length is for the sand filter tank, soil removal. Any questions on those two? And the change order for the sewer line, as we said, it's just basically a line extension to run out, to hook the compactor to. Any questions on that? Moving down to personnel, any questions on personnel? That's Dean of Student job description. Any question on the Dean of Student job description?
Is this a new position?
Yes. So part of the changes that I described a couple of months ago, as we started getting into what all those changes look like, we thought we could have the facilitator position up at Bucktail shift from a half-time to a full-time position. But as we looked at the supervisory nature of that position, we recognized that it needed to be not a facilitator. So it's a swap out of, we're not adding a total new person, it's a redefinition of the position.
Are we eliminating any positions with doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a trade out.
Any other questions? Lead nurse. Questions on that? Basically, what I understand, that's a position that we've had, that we've never really had a job description for it. So we come up with a job description. Same with the certified school nurse. It's a job description for the position that we have. Any questions on those? The CTE Administrative Secretary job description. I understand that it was clarified, just to clarify who the secretary reports to. She used to report to the high school principal and the CTE supervisor. Now it's just taking the high school principal out of it. Any questions on that?
Makes a lot of sense.
Next, athletics. Questions on the athletics? We have a sportsman athletic equipment quote for renovation or repairs of helmets and shoulder pads. Questions on that? Susquehanna Transit athletic quote. Any questions on that? One thing I would like to note on it, if you read through it, you'll see that Susquehanna Transit does
Donating
donate
back.
$20,000 back to the athletic. So I'd like to thank them for their donation.
It used to be, I think, 10. It went up to 20.
Next on the negotiation, the Keystone Central Education Support Professionals Association contract. Any questions on that? Pass next month or next week. Then we have an MOU for the Dean of Students that we talked about earlier with the job description. Because it is a new position going in with the Act 93, we had to have an MOU with them. Any questions on that? Director of Human Resource Federal Program. Questions on that? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I'm just curious did anyone look into this? Can public school districts hire a third-party consulting firm to handle our HR? Since it's not directly with the students, and this is more of a paper issue in filing and black and white. Can public schools hire a third-party consulting firm to handle our HR? And once we know that question, if it's a no, it's a no. We'd have to hire a full-time person. But if it's a yes, there's a potential there to put it out to bid, get competitive bids, just like we do for buses, not that they're the same skill set. And we save quite a bit of money. So can we find out the answer to that question?
So we haven't looked into it, but this position isn't just the black and white paper moving around kind of thing. It's, if you look at the job description. it's
I
much more
did.
involved
I did,
than
but
that, especially around contract negotiations.
yes, and we like to, at least last time it worked really well, hiring a third-party attorney on behalf of the board, but that's another issue. But seriously, can we please look into that? Can the public school district hire an HR company to handle that? Because this individual, and it's not about the individual, it's $145,000, and I'm assuming this individual has minimum 5 years of experience of HR. And then on top of that is a $20,000 benefit package plus per year. So I would really like this to go for further discussion and exploration, please.
Any other questions on it?
We're creating this job. There was nobody ever in this position.
The duties were distributed amongst other folks. And so I think I described this when we talked about the changes that we're making at the cabinet level. So this is a reassignment of currently employed personnel.
Is it gonna cost us more or less?
Overall, it will cost us less.
That's a good thing.
I mean, this is an option, but having an HR third party also helps with keeping things black and white.
Any other questions? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Good night, everybody.